There are moments when you're like, you know what is the church going to say? But I've learned that I'm not here to protect God's reputation. God's reputation is intact. Hi there, my name is Asanda. I'm your host for the Love Movement. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited about this season because it's about to get lit. It's about to get personal as I'll be sharing my own personal testimony. I say it's a testimony because it's purely by the grace of God that I can sit in front of you today, that I'm sharing the story with you today. Well, last year, which is 2020, was a very, very rough season in my life. I was practically forced to start this show, The Love Movement, by one of the producers here. And it so happened to be at a time when my marriage was on the rocks, if I can put it that way, right? So I even spoke to my counselor. I'm like, I'm supposed to be starting this show. I don't think I have anything to say to the people at this time of my life because I'm going through this. And my counselor said to me, you know what, sometimes God forces us to do certain situations even with a limb, you know. So when the season started out, the first 3 seasons were purely talking about the love of God. In hindsight now, that was basically ministering to me because I needed the assurance of God's love with what was happening. Cutting a long story short, I eventually got a divorce. It was finalized early this year. But what amazed me in the journey was how God was present with me throughout every step. You know, a divorce is a very tricky situation if anyone has been through it. It's like a death of a relationship. But the funny part is that when you're busy mourning this relationship, a lot of things are happening at the same time. There's lawyers this side, there's counseling, there's therapy. Everything is all happening at once. And you have to keep yourself on the ground. It's the most difficult thing that I ever had to endure. So what happened, right, was that throughout the process, I really felt that I wasn't alone. And the beauty of it was that God always brought certain people in my life to ensure that this journey is as less painful as possible. So with me explaining to you that a divorce is like a death, you're mourning, but at the same time you are angry, you are frustrated, you are depressed, you just don't believe what is currently happening in your life. And at the same time, you need to deal with this particular individual that you are getting out of this relationship with. So all your emotions are at play to a point where I found myself having high blood pressure, which is something that had never happened before. And my doctor also was surprised. There were times where I would wake up in the middle of the night and I was out of breath. It took me going through this experience to understand why God really hates divorce. He hates divorce, but he doesn't hate the divorcee, because the emotions that are invested in throughout a divorce process, they are the most painful emotions ever that I had to experience. So that is why I'm talking about this experience, so that anyone out there who has gone through it, as you can see today, I'm still standing and I can smile because God is faithful. He loves us despite our experiences. He loves us despite of anything that we go through. But there were a lot of things that I had to learn, even in the process, because when I started therapy, the first thing that they said to me was, we actually need to understand your background. How did you grow up as a child? So my parents got divorced when I was very, very young. I was probably 7, I think, but I remember it. I remember having a dad in the house, right? So with the sessions of therapy, we then discovered that, you know what, I had childhood issues that were never dealt with. So when I got married thinking that I'm the fixer. I took my marriage as a project. I took my relationship as a project that I'm going to solve the situation. In hindsight, when I think back, that was so arrogant of me because nobody can change any person. It's only God who can even change me. So the arrogance of me thinking that me as Asanda, I can change an individual was like, it's totally absurd. So lo and behold, I'm here. I'm divorced, but I'm still standing. And God still is teaching me and taking me through this process. It's still ongoing for me, the recovery, but I'm not alone. That is the beauty of it. So for anyone out there who is going through a divorce or who has gone through a divorce, don't quit on life. There are moments when you're like, you know what, you're feeling so embarrassed. What are people gonna think? What is the church going to say? But I've learned that I'm not here to protect God's reputation. God's reputation is intact. He did everything that he could do already. I need to learn and to learn from my experience and live my life differently. Because honestly, there's many things I learned about myself through this process. I discovered that I was an enabler. There were times I would cry, I was crying after this, and I was like, Lord, why did I go through this? And the Lord said, no, my child, you allowed certain situations. I was so shocked, but the way he spoke so gently to me is like, you allowed certain situations to happen because you didn't know who you are. You didn't know what I have done for you. I didn't bring you here for suffering. I did that. I died for you. I didn't expect you to get into a relationship and then die. Where is my glory in all of that? I was so shocked when I heard that. It's like you lost yourself in it. You lost you. I really did. I lost myself in the depression. I lost myself in the relationship. And God said, I never called you for that. And he never did. So I'm relearning now. I'm relearning who Asanda as an individual is, and I'm re-establishing myself, and I'm recommitting myself to Christ that, you know what, clearly I've missed it, Lord. I wouldn't have been divorced if I hadn't missed it. There's things that I needed to learn and readjust in my life. So join me on this journey, guys. It's about to get interesting. Cheers for now.